Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special webcast by the Kissimmee Osceola County Chamber of Commerce. I'm John Newstreet, President and CEO of the Kissimmee Osceola County Chamber of Commerce, and today we are bringing you a very special program for voter education. It's brought to us by our good friend, Kissimmee Utility Authority. Thank you, KUA. And as a reminder, our mission statement is to be champions for business and community. And so today's topic will definitely address things that affect you and your life and your business. And so we've brought some experts in. Today's guest is the president and CEO of Florida Tax Watch. Florida Tax Watch is an independent, nonpartisan, non-political organization that looks out for the Florida taxpayer. It's been around for over 40 years, and Dominic's led that most of that time. So if we bring up Dominic Calabro, he's the president and CEO of Florida Tax Watch. He is very influential around the state. The last 3 years, he's been recognized as one of the 500 most influential Floridians by Florida Trend. He's married to Debbie, has 4 kids, and he's got a long list of accomplishments and engagement around the state that we'll highlight in the text in the thread below our pictures here. So welcome, Dominic. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you, John. It's good to be here. Thank you, and welcome to all the members of the chamber. Really appreciate your service to the community, to the state, but also in your own families, and the things that you do, not only are business related, but in the community at large, are tremendous and wonderful. So what Tax Watch tries to do is be as the eyes and ears of the taxpayers. We also try to promote really nothing short of good stewardship. Public stewardship, not just keeping taxes low and competitive, which is important so that you can prosper and grow, but also to make sure that we spend our money wisely, that we invest, not just simply spend tax dollars, we invest them and see that there's a return on that investment that is greater than that investment, just like you do in your own business. Mm-hmm. So whether it's in education, economic development, transportation, roads, infrastructure, fiber optic and the like, Tax Watch is there on tax policy, but also public policy, to help you be more profitable and also have a better community in which to live, play, pray, and grow.
Well, thank you. Today we're going to talk about the 6th Florida constitutional amendment. So it's election time, and we've heard a lot about the 2 presidential candidates. We've heard a little bit about maybe more local candidates. Not a lot of talk about the 6 constitutional amendments, and yet this will impact our lives. So wanted to run through all 6 of these. And for the audience, I want to say we invited Florida Tax Watch because they have a tremendous voter guide that really addresses every aspect of these 6 constitutional amendments. And we're going to provide a link so you can do your own research. But they really analyze it. They provide you the wording that's going to be in front of you, the fiscal impact that's going to happen, really the pros and cons, so you can decide for yourself. And they do make a recommendation. We aren't going to talk about the recommendation today, so we can really get to the meat of the content on both sides of the constitutional amendment. We'll race through some of them because some of them are relative no-brainers, so to speak. And again, you can do the research a little deeper on the topics that most impact you. So, Dominic, let's get right to it. Let's maybe address the 6 in whole, and then I know we're going to focus on one in particular with the remainder of the conversation. So I'll turn it over to you and let you maybe do a quick rundown of all 6 constitutional amendments.
Thank you, John. And again, thank you to all your members and leaders of the community. You are the reason why we have a government of, by, and for the people. So thank you. Secondly, this is just a point of wisdom that Florida Tax Watch has learned over the years, John, and your members, that keep in mind, I think the overriding thought, whatever I have to say, whatever anyone has to say, keep this always in the front of your mind, that when in doubt, if you have any thoughtful or reasonable doubt about a proposed change to the state constitution, when in doubt, keep it out. Really simple. When in doubt, keep it out. Whether I agree with you, disagree with you, doesn't really matter. You got to look at it this way. Look, we've gone on for, dozens of years without this, whatever the change might be, unless it's really critical and you understand that there, but for this change, your life will be, either at risk or endangered, or your business at risk or greatly endangered. So keep that in mind as I talk about very briefly all 6 and focus on a couple that are most directly affecting you. So the very first one is, it's kind of a funny one. It's called Citizenship Requirement to Vote in Florida Elections. I say this is really, really a no-brainer because in some states, first of all, every state in the nation, all 50 states, require that if you are residents or citizens of those states, residents of those states have to be a U.S. citizen to vote for national elections like the Congress, the president, etc. And every single state also requires, as does Florida, to vote in state elections, statewide state elections, and so forth. You must be a citizen and a resident. Some states, not many, but there are a few states that allow non-residents, those with green cards and the like, to vote in some local township elections and some local elections. Florida Constitution, Florida law does not. You must be a citizen. So this change just simply, it's kind of like throwing red meat out there. It's a solution in search of a problem, in our opinion, but it will change the words in the Constitution that says every citizen can vote to only a citizen. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So you just know it just as a matter of fact, despite any recommendation, it has no direct effect today or in the future. So it just makes people feel good. So
Sure.
Amendment 2 we'll talk about more in the future. That's bringing the minimum wage up, which is currently Florida has a minimum wage. We're among the 12 regional southeastern states. Florida's one of 3 states that has an additional minimum wage beyond the federal minimum wage. Federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. The Florida state minimum wage currently is $8.57. This would bring it to $10 on September 30th of 2021, and then $1 increase each year thereafter. So go up $1.50 the first year, or nearly $1.50 the first year, and which is about 16-17% increase, and then $1 until each year until it reaches $15 an hour. The third amendment to the Constitution, proposed amendment to the Constitution, is allowing all voters to vote in primary elections. Right now, as many of you know, if you are a Democrat, you can largely just vote in Democratic primaries, Republican primaries. This proposed amendment will allow basically open primaries. Anyone could vote in any of the primaries as long as you're a registered voter in that proper jurisdiction. So that's for some, it's important because they feel like it's limiting people. The others, particularly both political parties, are opposed to it. Actually, the League of Women Voters was for it. Now they're against it. And no, it's interesting, but because there's some view that it might limit some African Americans some participation.
Sure.
I think overall, it's an experiment. I mean, I think something that Florida had many years ago that seemed to work for a really, really long time, and then we changed it under Governor Jeb Bush's tenure. We used to have runoff elections. So in a primary, whether Democratic or Republican nominee, you'd have to get 50% or more to advance to the general election. So you would always have a strong candidate with the runoffs. So there, but for the runoffs, if we did not have the runoffs, we would not have had Governors Bob Graham, Governors Ruben Askew, possibly even the icon of Florida, Leroy Collins. So I think that may be something we want to look at in the future as well. But that's not what's on the ballot. It's what's on the ballot now is every voter could vote in the primary elections, whether Republican or Democrat. The idea, we have the pros in there, the cons. The simple opponents say, you know, there's some discipline to have Democrats, advanced Democrats. You want to make sure you got a diversity. The pros on it saying, look, we're disenfranchised. More, almost a majority now. I mean, they're becoming so many non-party affiliation, NPAs, those without a direct political affiliation, feel disenfranchised from voting for in any of the primaries. They can only vote in the general election. So many people, like myself, have never changed political parties. I'm a very nonpartisan guy, but I've never changed my political party because I lived in a community where I really couldn't vote, and I just said no. We'll vote in the primaries. So that's number 3. Number 4 is a voter approval requirement to amend this document, this Constitution of Florida. There's 5 ways to amend the Constitution. First and foremost, by citizen initiative. Secondly, by the legislature. Third, by the 2 forms of constitutional commission type process. One is the Constitutional Review Commission, and then the Tax and Budget Reform Commission. Tax Watch helped create the Taxation Budget Reform Commission many years ago, and now, and last and finally, is a convention. We haven't really had the convention. So what this will do is say, look, um, to deflame the passions of the moment, it will require that a proposed amendment to the Constitution would have to pass two successive general elections. So let's say the minimum wage would be voted on, and this requirement was in place. It would have had to get 60% or more vote in 2020, and then in the general election of 2022. Why? The idea behind the amendment is that it ought to be harder, not easier, to amend the Constitution. The Constitution is a fundamental document. It's an organic law. It shouldn't be changed willy-nilly. And currently, before Tax Watch was instrumental, actually with the Florida Council 100 in the Florida Chamber back in 2006, we took the lead to get the requirement to 60%. And before that, all it took was, one more voting yes than no, changing our fundamental constitutional rights and protections, doing crazy things in the Constitution. But at least we have the 60% threshold, so it's really important.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other state that has this except Nevada, but Nevada has only for citizen initiatives. This would be for all initiatives. So there's pros and cons behind it. Generally speaking, it should be harder than not to amend the Constitution. Number 5 and 6, I'll make it fairly quickly. They will be limitations on homestead property tax assessments, and increase the portability period to, I think, 3 years instead of 2. It's a small change. It's one that is be beneficial to most people. There's really no one that's organized against it, to my knowledge. Amendment 6 is, again, ad valorem tax discount for spouses of deceased veterans who had a permanent combat-related disability. So until now, the disability only goes to the individual. Now it will go to the remaining spouse as well. So those are all 6. And if I can, maybe spend a little bit more time, John, with those on the minimum wage, because that really has most direct impact on many of you. So
Well,
say,
let me interject real quick for the audience. If you have a question, we will try to address it. Go ahead and put it in a thread. We can see, and we will monitor that and try to address it before we close out here. So feel free to put questions in for us. And then, but as you get into Amendment 2, which is probably the most important for us to really digest, and we could go on for an hour or more. If our audience has an interest in digging down deeper, put that in the thread too, because we could probably set up a private Zoom to have a deeper conversation on that topic as well. But we are going to try to dig down on Amendment 2. If you have questions, put them in the thread. And of the 6 amendments, really 1, 5, and 6 are non-controversial. 2, 3, and 4 is where the focus is to kind of understand a little better. Is that correct, Dominic?
yes, I'd say so. I think absolutely.
Okay.
The biggest one, of course, is Amendment number 2,
Mm-hmm.
because it will change the very relationship between you and your employees, and it does it at the really worst time possible. So the pros are, people would like to see higher wages, but I will say this, that the body of evidence overwhelmingly over time shows that while there's an immediate benefit that you put more money into the economy, it comes at what? There's only 3 ways that cost can be borne: by customers, by other fellow employees through wages and reduction in benefits, or by the shareholders and the owners of the business. So the money does not grow on trees. We cannot print it like the federal government. So it's got to come from somewhere. So whether you're a more liberal economist or more conservative economist, all of them find that this is one of the more inefficient ways that has the different kind of side effects on the economy. A couple of things I want to bring out for your members' attention. First and foremost, the nonpartisan United States Congressional Budget Office we've done a lot of research on it. We've got a lot of research here, but also an entire research paper on it. No one's done more exhaustive research on the minimum wage, intellectually honestly, looking at both sides, the pros and cons, than Florida Tax Watch at this time. Mm-hmm. So I ask you to look at our website, www.floridataxwatch.org. You can download it, no charge to you, just part of our public service, and hopefully a partnership with John and your chamber. Mm-hmm. What we do here is look. The Congressional Budget Office says that in 2019, when the economy was hotter than hot, okay, Florida had an unemployment rate of 3.7%. Historically, anything below 5% is considered full employment. We had below, just incredible. So when we had that hot economy, they said that nationwide, if there were a minimum wage of $15 an hour, it would do the following. It would boost just slightly 1,300,000 Americans out of just the level of poverty to just above poverty. Okay. But the consequence, even in the best of times, is that 3.7 million people would lose their jobs. So, you help one, you hurt three others. That's in the best of times. That's not with the effects of the pandemic or it's the attempts to restart the economy. We know so many segments, even if you're not in the hotel, motel, hospitality sector, and vacation related activity. There's so many of our services. So even if you are paying your employees $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour, what this will do is make your payment of those individuals less distinct, less uh, less attractive, frankly. So first of all, Tax Watch, for the record, says throughout, we want to see, and I know many of you do, you want to see your employees have good wages. We want to see employees have higher wages, higher benefits, and higher income. But we find that when you distort the market by artificially mandating things like a wage and price increases or wage freezes, as we did in the 1970s under President Richard Nixon, we found that they were just failing and destroying the economy. They caused all kinds of hyper things we didn't want. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to happen. What we have here is we want them to be based on their talent, based on their ability, based on the marketability, based on the marketplace. So we hope, frankly, this is one we're going to opine on a little bit, that you consider this very, very seriously. And hopefully we can come back with something that makes a bit more sense. Right now, again, of the 12 competing states in the Southeast, Florida is an outlier because we pay $8.57, while others, 9 of our 12 competing states only pay the federal minimum wage is $7.25. We believe you're going to change it. You should change it nationwide, and you should do it probably a little slower, a little more incrementally, and the like. But also,
well, I don't want to cut you off. You're on a roll, and there's a lot of important information. But I did read your voter guide in full last night once again, and a lot of good information and analysis. So 2 points, especially for Osceola County. One is its impact on agriculture, and you talked about the Southeast. Your write-up kind of mentions how agriculturally it would have put Florida at a disadvantage. And 2, it's really targeted to help the lower wage folks, but yet they're the most that are adversely impacted by this effort. So I really want to zero in on those 2 things. The third point is it really increases the disparity between large corporations and small businesses. So
spot on.
We're probably going to go over 15 minutes, but if we could hit those 3 points, I really want that, because everybody wants higher wages. Everybody wants to provide higher wages, but there are mechanics in place that's going to throw everything off. And so if we could zero in on those things so that our viewers really understand, I like the idea, but it's just not cooked enough. So maybe start with the large corporation, small business, then we'll go to ag, and then we'll go to how it most impacts the people who it's intended to help.
John, we should go on a roadshow together. You're absolutely right. It's really great. I want to say this again. If I'm going to take it in a different order, the exact opposite. First of all, it's intended to help low income. It's supposed to help minorities. It's supposed to help young people get a start. It unfortunately has the exact opposite effect. It may be well intended, has the exact opposite effect. It's going to disproportionately hurt low income, particularly young people getting started, because an employer has 6 employees. He's going to have to say, well, she's going to have to say, look, can't have 5 or 6. I can only have 3 or 4. So immediately it's going to have a direct, immediate impact. Secondly, it's going to affect benefits. So that's number one. It has the effect of, and especially it affects minorities disproportionately. So the very people it's intended to help, more often than not, that's why the Congressional Budget Office and others through years say this is not only not the best, it's one of the least efficient ways to do that. Secondly, there's a great disparity between large businesses, and Florida does not really have very many, where we have 500 or more employees and the like. It to some extent immediately helps them crush small businesses because they can take the cost and pass it through a larger system, economies of scale. 2, they can innovate. They can buy technology that small businesses have a harder time to do. So they can't innovate. They can't provide the kind of technological improvements actually what this will do is further, keep in mind, people are business not to employ people. They're in business to make money. So employees are a cost of doing that business and an important partner in that business. But they will find, you all will find other ways of providing the goods and services you do in your business that are less costly, and have the same or better value to proposition. Last and not least, this really does affect one of our key industries in Florida and in your community as well, agriculture. The cost of prices of goods and services, food products, all kinds of products and services provided, uh, far more disproportionately. Again, many of your folks and fellow agriculture related sectors are dealing with, you know, the effects of nature and God, and now we just add this other tremendous uncertainty to your business proposition. And so, long and short of it, again, when in doubt, keep it out. I believe there's enough doubt here, but long and short of it, we all want to make our wages better, the position and health and prosperity of our employees, our customers, and your fellow shareholders. And stock owners more prosperous and healthy. Florida's on poise to really reset our economy, again, be the 16th largest in the world, and grow faster than any other. This, unfortunately, will put a big impediment in that, and won't be the end of the world, but it certainly will be a very bad impact on our recovery efforts.
Well, we're over 15 minutes, and so I want to do two things. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Sanchez. He's had some comments in there in the thread, so we appreciate your feedback. And also want to thank you, Dominic, for being with us today. Again, we could talk a long time about each of these amendments, especially Amendment 2. Our aim here is voter education to make sure our voters know what the ballots are, what the impacts are, and to decide for themselves. The Chamber is not taking a formal position on any of these constitutional amendments. We do have processes in place, and they didn't go through that process. So we just want to make sure you have the information at hand. As a courtesy for those who have watched this program, I was going to leave the recommendations by Florida Tax Watch out, but they do recommend a no vote on Amendments 1 and 2 and a yes vote on Amendments 3, 4, 5, and 6. Is that correct, Dominic?
It is.
Okay, so, but again, wonderful resource at their website to learn more, to dig deeper. Put in the thread if you want us to converse a little bit more about it, and very much appreciate y'all watching. And Dominic, thanks for all you're doing for the Florida taxpayer and for being with us this morning. Thank you. And thanks to KUA for sponsoring today.
Thanks, John. Thank you all.